Spirit and Soul, where Atlanta's service industry unpacks raw and provocative truths, share hilarious commentary about their unique industry experiences.
Welcome to Spirit and Soul Podcast, a space where we share antidotes, lessons, recipes, and the personalities of those in the service industry here in Atlanta. We all love a great cocktail, but the industry is full of so much more than that. We have soul too, right? And that's why you love us so much. I'm your host, Courtney, and our guest today is Stephanie Saputo. Cheers.
Cheers, darling.
Thank you for joining me
to be here with you. Yay. Finally.
Right, it's been a long time coming.
Yes.
I'm so happy you're here. Stephanie is the assistant manager and just a spirit specialist at Elemental Spirit Co., which is a bottle shop here in Atlanta off of North Highland, right? Mm-hmm. How long has it been there?
It opened February of 2020.
Okay, so a couple years, kind of new.
Yeah. Going on our third year coming up.
Nice. Yes, so she's going to give us some insight on the bottle shop offerings and what makes them so special. When I wrote this show, I was talking about how the zero proof bar is in development, but it's here. So there's an extension of Elemental Spirits, which is a zero proof, non-alcoholic bottle shop.
Yeah.
So that just opened up too in December, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's dedicated to just non-alcoholic spirits.
Sure is.
I was amazed.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, especially how quickly everything blew up, because it started with just a few bottles on our shelves, and then all of a sudden tons of people were coming in specifically for that thing. And then within the year, all of these brands started coming out with their own take on whatever.
Yeah.
And now there's a whole store.
There's a whole store. Yeah. You guys definitely have to check it out. It is so cute. It's so cute. I got so excited and I wanted to taste everything.
And and that's the other good thing about it is because, some of you can get a little bit of sticker shock because there's no alcohol in it. So why is it so expensive?
Definitely true.
Yeah, but so you can kind of taste the things and see why, there's a lot of intention and thought process behind what they do. For instance, the Spiritless girls distill bourbon and then remove the alcohol from it. Science, I don't know. I don't know the inner workings of it, but whiskey was a really hard niche to nail as far as getting those flavor components.
And she's talking about Spiritless, the non-alcoholic.
Yeah, it's a non-alcoholic bourbon. Yeah. Now they have a couple lines of other things as well, but it's just one of the first that caught in my mind as far as being oh wow, you really can't argue with a spirit that it was once a spirit that the alcohol's been removed. It's basically just if bourbon was a juice or a tea. So you get all of those flavors without that heat.
Yeah, and I will say Spiritless is definitely one of the better brands. I like it.
Yeah,
the whiskey.
I didn't like the whiskeys that were out until I tried. Yeah.
Agreed.
And I think especially when you play, kind of comes to where our expertise is essential is because you can use these items to make things that taste just like cocktails.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mocktails, we like to call it.
Because drinking it on the rocks, you're gonna know you're not drinking bourbon. Exactly. But the way that they have been able to really trick your palate into thinking that some of these things are indeed containing spirits and they're not.
I love it.
Really cool. Yeah.
It's a whole niche. And I'm obsessed.
Yeah, I was always kind of as a bartender, I always thought that you were only as good as your best mocktail. If you didn't
I completely agree with that.
Yeah, because if you don't consider that part of you're missing out on money, first of all, which is stupid, and an opportunity to be creative in a way that challenges you a little bit more.
Yeah.
Now it's easier than ever because we have so many cool things to play with, and it's not just mixing juices and topping it with Sprite and then calling that a drink.
Right.
because I'm sure anybody who doesn't drink has probably had like a million of those.
Right.
And so
I'm so happy that we're getting into this part of the conversation because it is January and it's dry January for a lot of people. For me, it's dry-ish January.
Yeah.
Not quite dry.
For me, working retail, especially like retail now, because I was a bartender before, but even still like bartending, this time of year is hard for us. So sometimes I can see how like imbibing and like partaking during the month just to get through it can take and especially for people who aren't in the industry, because that's a lot of time with your family, it's a lot of stress, a lot of planning, a lot of financial burdens.
And a lot of drinking.
A lot of drinking, a lot of, indulging. And so it's a nice time to just like clean slate. But for me, it's like the first time I get to actually slow down and breathe. And I personally, and like whatever works for you, works for you. But like I personally, when I get in those grooves where I'm just like working all the time and everything's high stress for the like foreseeable future as far as like holidays and stuff are concerned, that like kind of deters. I might, it's like a one glass of wine at the end of the night, kind of maybe a shot of Fernet, because I am a bartender.
See, I don't drink Fernet.
Oh no. Well,
why did you say it like
no,
that?
it's okay. It's not for everyone. It's not like a flavor that everybody's like, this is amazing.
I just never drank it by itself. Like I've never drank it. Like maybe it was in a cocktail.
That's okay.
Or something.
That's like Malort people now. Like if the Malort people are coming out of the woodwork, it's an Amari that's like made in the United States. But, it was only in the Midwest. And it's a lot. And if you're not from there, chances are you probably hate it. But those people rep it so hard.
Yeah. I have to try it then.
It's just like, like one of those like handshake kind of drinks, I guess, for them. In the same way that Fernet is. I think it became one of those, you find those like weird, obscure things that people, because like Fernet hasn't always been the bartender's hand, you know what I mean?
It's always been, Jameson is whiskey bourbon.
Oh my gosh, remember when everybody thought Jameson was like the
I still really like it, but I haven't had it in a long time.
Yeah, there's just so much other stuff now.
There is. It's growing, and I can't wait to talk about that more with the bottle shop. So we're gonna, just so you know, we're gonna talk about on the show today, we're gonna discuss some best practices to keep in mind when visiting a bottle shop. And as you know, I'm always interested in everyone's personal journey, especially in this industry, like how they got there and, what avenues they went and what kind of keeps them there, because a lot of people that I've interviewed on the show or had conversations with, they've been doing this for a long time. Yeah. And I think that's cool. So I want to know why. So I hope you guys are up for that too. So let's go ahead and get into that. So we talked about elemental spirits a bit, but I kind of want to know a little bit more. Essentially, it's a liquor retailer.
Yeah.
You correct me if I'm wrong. I'm gonna give you my synopsis on how I understand elemental spirits to be, but I think that the staff there and just the bottle shop in its entirety, it's basically, you guys are passionate about the art and the craft of creating
nerds, you can say.
And making and perfecting alcohol. So it's a difference between a bottle shop and a liquor store. So I want to get into that a bit as well. But the staff, they're just super knowledgeable and they know what's on the shelves. And you have to have a certain kind of interest in spirits to want to know the science and makeup of it all. So I'm completely like, you guys are the shit.
He really lucked out. Opening in February 2020, his wine
when you
buyer,
say he, they don't know who you're talking about, so.
Oh yeah, so Corey Atkinson is our owner. He and his wife Mallory opened our shop February of 2020, and when they picked their wine buyer, it was a good friend of mine. Jessie was one of the first girls I met, moved here. We worked at the same the first restaurant I worked at, she worked with me.
Okay.
And she comes from like a heavy wine background. Her dad is super into it, and so she's the wine buyer.
Okay.
And she's phenomenal. And so she has a restaurant background, and our other AGM, Christina, who also amazing. Shout out. Yes. She also comes from hospitality. She was a server, and I think she even bartended a little bit here and there in the city. So all of us already had not only like the hospitality factor on knowing how to take care of people, but we already had all of the wealth of knowledge on the things that we're selling. Whereas like most liquor stores that you go in, like the bigger bottle shops, you can't really ask everybody anything. And I mean, most of them, you don't expect that anyway.
Like, honestly, I think, a lot of us go in and it's like, well, we know some basics. Tequila is made from agave and whiskey is aged in barrels. And, but outside of the basics, I don't think a lot of us know the first thing about what we're even consuming. It's just like, oh, this is a popular brand and I want to feel a certain way, so this does it.
Yeah.
And I like that there's a lot more intention. I think with age, my age, me just maturing, I feel like I'm becoming more of a conscious drinker and not just drinking just to drink.
Yeah, I think that comes with age.
And you correct me if I'm wrong, as far as the bottle shop, I mean, there's also a cool aesthetic and just consciousness that's growing and awareness that's growing amongst us all just in general right now. But would you say the demographic for a bottle shop is typically a little older, but you're also off North Highland, so I don't know. What is your demographic for that area?
We had a little bit of everybody. We were right next to Manuel's Tavern, which is like the oldest bar in the entire world.
I've never been there. So I pass it all the time.
Yeah, you do have a lot of people, like, there's people that have very clearly been coming there since the day they turned, like their parents probably brought them in for, to play pinball machines, and now they're going and they bring their grandkids there. So you do have that. We actually took some of their event space. So a lot of the times people will come and think that we're part of Manuel's.
Oh, okay.
But no, that neighborhood is growing into a really young and vibrant neighborhood. Yeah. So we do get a lot of young, it's a very all over the place mix, I would say. Okay. And with the knowledge that people have that we are a little bit more obscure and intentional with what we carry, you'll get our whole ethos is thirsty and curious. So it's our whole play.
Right.
That's what we talk about. So you'll get those people that are new home bartenders. COVID created a lot of those. And so people that are not bartenders that are just interested in new things, or they've found a spirit that they like and want to try it made in different ways, or they have learned of the liquor industry and how some of it is really unsavory, and they want to go somewhere where they know that they can talk to someone about buying a bottle that is made in an ethically conscious way.
Okay. And so you guys know that, on the shelves, okay, yeah. Well, is everything like that in the bottle shop?
We try to. Okay. Some categories are really difficult to completely have the ethos that we want. Rum and tequila come to mind specifically. It's just it's hard to meet all of those where it's ethically sourced, ethically produced, everything about it is clean cut.
So the goal is to every bottle in the store, the goal is for them all to be ethically sourced, produced, and all that.
Yeah, we're trying to give attention to people who deserve it, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. Our agave section, a lot of people will come in and they get kind of blindsided because there's a lot of brands that you just maybe aren't, well, now that the New York Times just came out with a pretty big article about Blanco tequila, so maybe you'll recognize a few of them now. One of them was actually the one that's in this.
You know what?
Yeah.
I had this at Argosy in East Atlanta, and I was like, this is an amazing tequila.
Yeah, they're great. I love this line because they make the distinction between highlands and lowlands, and that's not really something that people think about when they're drinking tequila. But
this is called
Siempre Ales is this one, yeah. And they do the lowlands side of things, so it's really herbaceous and bright, where you're not getting that fruity.
Yeah. It's
vanilla kind of note.
I forgot, guys. I always tell you what we're drinking today. So today we are drinking a passion fruit margarita, essentially, but it's made with I'm gonna mess up the name, Siempre Ales tequila. And it tastes by itself with just a basic margarita, it tastes like it could be possibly mezcal, but it's not.
It's grassy, yeah.
It's
where
not.
A lot of those agaves on the mezcal side embrace that, yeah. And unfortunately with tequila, you only have to be 99% agave to be considered tequila. So
Okay.
a lot of brands will use that 1% to make their mass-produced products a little bit more palatable to their consumers in practices that maybe you're not, like, that maybe you wouldn't want to support, whether it's like harvesting agave that's not ripe yet and chemically steaming it to ripen it, or if it's maybe like adding some vanilla flavor so that you can't taste that chemical ripening has taken place. It kind of masks some of that unsavory note with a big fake vanilla bomb.
So that process that you explained, that's specifically the type of agaves and tequilas that you would prefer, that elemental spirits would prefer not to have.
Yeah, you can go to literally any other store in the town and see it on a shelf there. So, you know, I appreciate that that's the brand that you know and that you love, but yeah, you gotta be, if you gotta be open-minded if you want to explore. Maybe we do carry your brand, and if we do, that's awesome, and it's good to know that like you were behind a brand that was cool.
That's how I feel right now.
That was a good
I
one.
feel good because I didn't know that.
You know, we're not completely there yet. It's like our wine program, we have at the very least everything's sustainably farmed. We have a lot of natural choices, but like I said, spirits is still kind of hard to, you know, to carry all completely like ethically sound products.
You guys try.
Yeah, we really do.
And I think, would you say what percentage of the store is that way? Like 90%?
I would say, yeah, we really try, especially if it's local. Like we just got the Tulsi and the Murals Row gin that Kimball House, the group of Kimball House was just putting together. Like we really try. Yeah, it's brand new. I didn't know either until it showed up on our shelves, and I was like, well, hello, you're here.
Please share as if no one knows, because I don't even know what you're talking about.
If it's made in Atlanta, we try to put it on the shelf for sure. And like,
and what is it exactly?
It's a gin that they just, Murals Row is what it's called. They make 2 different brands and, or 2 different recipes. And because Kimball House is really well known for making amazing cocktails, and they do, it was like a highly coveted, like people were excited about it. But yeah, we try to support local when we can, or like people who are doing things that make sense to us. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Another question I have on elemental spirits, and we'll move on, is do you guys host any events? Like, what do you guys do initiative-wise beyond just what's on the shelves?
So we do pour tastings. Usually we'll do those on Thursdays. And if you're following us on Insta, which is elementalspirits.co, we always post all of our stuff. We're really like social media savvy. Like we're like, if we're doing something, you'll see it on the Instagrams. All of our.
I love your guys' IG. It's so clean. It's so clean.
Yeah. The Zero Co one is too. And so, yeah, usually we'll do like little tastes. We can't like do classes or anything because Georgia law is really funny about how much you can pour in a liquor store. So we can't just like make cocktails for people, which is why the Zero Co place is so great, because there's like no rules. You can pour whatever you want, you know? So, yeah. So we do.
You're already giving me ideas right now. Like I'm like, oh.
We do events where like we'll go to, like a private residence or someone's work, if you want us to do a private wine class or like bourbon tasting or cocktail class.
Okay, so you do offer that.
Oh yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
Nice.
We just like we're limited as far as what we can offer in store.
Gotcha. So we're gonna take a quick break, but I wanna come back and I wanna learn more about your journey, but I also wanna talk about the clear differences between a liquor store and a bottle shop. So kind of like, you know, what to expect going into a bottle shop versus like what you get at a liquor store, or just natural like best practices when you're walking in there, like, okay, don't do this. You know, do you get people coming up there drunk? Like, save that thought, and then we'll take a quick break. Okay, we're back. Stephanie, I want to learn more about your journey, and I want the listeners to also kind of learn more about your journey too. So I want to know how long you've been in the industry, the bar industry, and what your journey looked like. So I guess, where did you start, and then how did your evolution get you to elemental spirits.
Okay.
In like a 3 to 5 minute.
Short bio.
Yeah.
Sure. So actually, in Pennsylvania, where I'm from, you can start bartending, I think at 18.
Okay.
It might be 20, but it is as young as 18. And I was 20 when I started bartending. So it was at this, it's called the Italian Civics Club. If you've heard of like the vet clubs and like the certain like drinking, like the Eagles clubs or like there's certain like drinking clubs. Yeah, where you like buy into membership and then alcohol is like significantly cheaper. So this really makes me sound like I'm like 300 years old, but like drafts were like $1, like dollar beers.
That's not that bad.
I mean,
was it High Life or PBR or something?
Like, yes.
Okay, well no, they were doing that like about 6 or 7 years ago.
I guess, I mean, but we didn't have craft beer then, so yeah. And then this was like coming home from school, like in between college, like I'm like off season for school. And then I decided I want to go to culinary school. And I went, long story short, financially couldn't sustain myself in college anymore, so I had to leave.
Well, how long did you stay in culinary school?
I stayed for like almost a year. I was one semester short. Yeah, culinary school is amazing. I don't see myself being like a person in the kitchen.
Okay. But there's
just because,
so much with
but I
what
had,
we do.
I was obsessed with food, and that turned into an obsession with beverage. And since I had to go home, I had friends in culinary school. You have to go on externship to graduate, and a bunch of them were going to Asheville, North Carolina. My friend got set up with like an apartment. She and her girlfriend broke up. She needed a roommate. I was like, get me out of. I was in my hometown, just like not doing well. And so I had an opportunity to just like start over. I started working at the Biltmore Estate. She was in the kitchen. And then and I just started in the front of the house. And so
you said it so casually, but that's kind of cool.
Well, I guess yes, but like back then it was like the only place to do food and beverage if you were gonna live in Asheville. And it was just like, oh, okay. And so now that I think about it, I'm like, it's like one of the most gorgeous places in the entire country. And it was kind of one of the best places I ever worked.
And I'm sure it had a big impression on like your whole view of.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I thrived learning hospitality in the South because, like coming up north, like we definitely are friendly, but it's just a different way. Like when you're in Southern hospitality, like it's like no matter where you are, this is someone's like living room. Like they are hosting you, like you're hanging out.
Yes.
And so that you really get to like, you get to like, people are friendly. You get to anticipate like what they like. They come, you get people that come back. And I mean, this happens everywhere, but like that exceptional, like, I mean, the Southern hospitality thing is real. Yeah. And so I felt like really lucky to learn from that. I was in Asheville for 5 or so years. This is when Asheville was like big. They were like putting the Beer City name on themselves, and like they were super into that. So like cocktails weren't getting. I mean, we made cocktails at the bar because I started from like just being a server assistant all the way to like front bartender in the lounge at the Biltmore, the estate. What
was that time period like?
I spent 6 months as like a breakfast attendant, and then went to running food for the dining room at night, which that was a lot of fun because I got to hang out with the kitchen people a lot, which those were my friends. So it was really cool also to be able to bridge that back of house and front of house gap, because there's always like that weird animosity sometimes with people. But they knew that because I came from a culinary background, that I at least, if I hadn't like experienced what they were going through, I understood it. So, and I cared about what they did. I knew that what they did mattered. Right. And so we had a really good relationship. I got to eat way more food than I should have. I
love that. That's probably like the best part of working in the industry. You get spoiled with the food.
Yeah, totally. Especially, you gotta make friends with those chefs. I tell you, because they're back there eating all the time. So
it makes it so that if you're not, it makes my palate though, like I can't eat basic things.
No, it ruins you. It ruins you. It totally does. So yeah, I went. The best job that I had there was doing the service bar. So in the dining room downstairs, the bar upstairs does not make your drinks. You have a little bar in the kitchen. And so no guest interaction, just like hanging out with the kitchen guys, talking shit.
Is that more ideal?
Not really. You would think so, but Biltmore has a winery, so people are into those wines, whether or not, at the time they were good, it was the thing. And so you get some martini drinkers and some Manhattan, but no one was like particular about drinks back then. It was very much like Cosmos and like Bailey's and something, or highballs, things of that. Very 101 bartending. Gotcha. And even when I went up to the main bar, it was still very much like that. I did some Manhattans and stuff like that, but I had no mixing glass. I had the spoon with the red top. Like nothing was cute.
But you also were behind doors, so it's like it didn't have to be.
No, well, yes, yeah.
Although it would have been ideal.
But even in the front bar, like all of that, it just like that kind of, we had New Orleans bartenders that taught us the ropes and taught us how to make great cocktails, but none of us had like any sort of like specific craft cocktail technique. We were just slinging booze and having a great time doing it. Yeah. And then I moved to Pittsburgh. My husband's in hotels, and so we were moving around and opened the Hotel Indigo up there, and their whole restaurant idea was that they would have a craft cocktail bar in the restaurant, and that's kind of where we had someone coincidentally from Atlanta that worked for the IHG hotels come up and kind of like give us a crash course on craft cocktails, and that was the only kind of mentorship I've ever had. And it was great because that was one of her, like the two most important things she taught me was like, one, your number one job as a bartender is to not kill people. And two, your number two job is you're only as good as your best mocktail. Like everybody matters.
Okay, can we talk about that just for a second? Because I completely agree with that. And shameless plug, Spirit and Soul. I say this all the time with Spirit and Soul, which is the mobile bar company that I own.
Right.
The reason why our drinks are so well is because I make good mocktails.
That's right.
And all I do is build from there because, I mean, there are some cocktails that are just more boozy, period. It's mostly just booze. But that's not really our focal point.
Yeah.
It's, we're batching things for the masses.
Yeah.
So punches and, just nice, palatable cocktails.
Yeah.
And the base is just a good mocktail. If you can make a good mocktail, you can make a good drink.
Well, for me, like learning the craft cocktail thing, it was kind of like, oh, this is just culinary, but now I'm just working with liquid instead of like food all of the time. And so you have to understand balance at its core and flavor components at its core to be able to make, I mean, you can mask things with alcohol, sure. And you can cover up a lot of mistakes. I mean, like I did not start out in my endeavors in exploring the craft cocktail world and making my own drinks. I did not make my drinks were bangers, like they were not good, but to just be able to have that like correlation, like, oh, these flavors go together and how can I incorporate that into
so
drinks?
Important.
Yeah.
And it's so simple too.
Yeah, it made it really easy for me. Like I caught on very quickly to it, and like really all I did was like study the classics. Like, well, what are people drinking and how do they drink them? And then,
And then well, I'll say this, a lot of our listeners, some of them are in the industry, but a lot of them aren't. So that's why sometimes I can be like really rudimentary with what I say. Cause I'm like, there's people who don't know. And that's why they're watching this podcast.
Well, that can be, I'm navigating the cocktail world as someone who doesn't imbibe. I can only imagine can be so confusing because they don't have the knowledge that like not everything that you have on one menu is the same everywhere else. So,
but what I will say is that a lot of cocktails, specialty cocktails you'll find at different restaurants and bars are riffs on just basic, regular cocktails. Yeah. And so it's like nothing's completely original.
Right. Yeah. A lot of them can be like, recreated.
Yeah.
But like the same name doesn't mean,
exactly.
Like, that was a lot.
A lemon drop here could be a lemon teeny here. Like
it's true. It's true.
Same thing.
Yeah.
And so you went from Pittsburgh and Hotel Indigo, and then how'd you get to Atlanta?
Yeah. So my husband got transferred from the Hyatt in Pittsburgh to the Hyatt here, and I even living in Nashville, which is only like 3 hours away from here. I had never been to Atlanta before at all, so I didn't really know anything except that like I loved the Housewives. And that I knew that like the music scene here was pretty awesome. And that's really all I knew.
Okay.
And I worked for Omni Hotels at the time. I opened Hotel Indigo, and then I ended up working for Omni at the William Penn, which it was just the reason I went is because it reminded me of like if Biltmore was in Pittsburgh. It was just like a very old, beautiful building, like fine dining things. Hotel Indigo just took too long to, I mean, openings, you know how they are.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, my bank account couldn't sustain
I get it.
how long it took.
I don't do openings.
Yeah. Lesson learned.
Every time someone says they do it, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Yeah. Anytime I was like, it's a new restaurant, it's going to be popping. I'm like, let me know in 6 months.
I'll talk to you in
a
year.
I'm not coming over there.
Yeah. So I hadn't opened something before. That was my experience for me. That was the last one for me. I initially transferred to the Omni CNN Center down here. And I remember going to the interview and like the schedule was insane. It was like 1-to-1, 5 or 6 days a week, like 12-hour shifts. Wow. And I was just like, and I had to, the outfit was not cute or comfortable. It was just very much, it seemed like, kind of like it was like a sports bar in a nice hotel. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, I'll do this because it's a job immediately. But I just remember being like, I gotta look for something immediately. Yeah. And I like was on some hiring app, and the GM from the restaurant that Kiata had left.
Kiata is she's owner of A Sip of Paradise Garden, guys, which we've mentioned plenty of times on the show.
Yeah. Thanks for the shouts. Yeah. But yeah, so I met her, I met her mutual friend, and they were like, hey, can you handle like a whole cocktail program? And I was like, sure. No idea. Faked it until I made it.
Oh, that's what we all do.
Yeah,
it's okay.
But I knew. And so it was definitely a learning experience. It was not a paid bar manager position, so that's definitely another job where I learned my worth. They're no longer
What year
open.
was that, if you don't mind me asking?
2016.
Yeah, I feel like around that era, like a good decade of that era, it was a bunch of bar managers that were really just, they were underpaid. And
you wanted to be able to say you created a menu, so you did it, but you weren't being paid to do it.
Right.
It was all
and then
your time.
And then it's like you get in the shift. I was just talking to someone, a bar manager recently, and it's just like, you get in this role as a manager and they abuse it because it's like, okay, I went from making bank as a bartender and I want this title, thinking I'm gonna like have more consistent and good money as a manager, and then you get there and you're like, no, they're just going to abuse the fuck out of me.
Yeah, I'm going to be there all of the time.
Exactly, have no life.
Yeah.
And the bartenders are going to be making more money than you. I hate that.
Yeah, and then if you do work for tips, they look at you funny. And I mean, that makes, I get it.
Yeah.
But like at the same time, it's like, no, it's not enough.
And I'm curious to know like what the situation is these days. I'm just getting back into
I'm hoping it's a better world.
Yeah.
I'm assuming after 2020, because that's when I left the bar. Like,
Same.
that's when I decided that I was like, I'm not going to work for someone else.
Yeah.
Like, this is not ideal for me. The bar that I left, I mean, I loved working there, but the thought of like, if you knew where I worked, you know that the bar has no windows, like no ventilation, and it was like a fine dining establishment. So the people who were going there were COVID deniers and people who were still like, I'm not wearing a mask for anybody. And 2 months after COVID really hit and everything shut down, it was like not the time that I wanted to go and be hospitable to people like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Like, I had luckily been headhunted by Angel's Envy, and I took a part-time position with them. Yeah, it felt really good to have that kind of support because they found me. And I got hired with them right before things shut down. And I was like, let me just see how I can make this work. And hopefully I can go off this and fun employment, which like was the break that I absolutely needed.
That's good.
Yeah, and then once I took that breath, I was like, I love bartending, but working for someone else is making me hate it. And
I'm happy you said it. I completely agree, which is why I created Spirit and Soul, another shameless plug. I couldn't do it.
No.
I mean,
we had this conversation at the garden. I remember you were like, I hate working for other people. And I was like, girl, don't do it.
I can't.
Yeah.
Like, it gives me trauma. Like, it was like just so triggering to be back behind a bar in a restaurant. It's like, I just couldn't do it.
I was tired of being like treated as not a human.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's a pandemic going around, and just because people want to like drink caviar or drink champagne and eat caviar and steak, I have to put myself out there.
Exactly, that part.
Not to mention, not all of us are just like single fun-loving like barflies. We're mothers. We're people who have families. Like we're people who do this as a side gig. Like people have lives, and the way that we were just treated, or so many people during that time were treated as afterthoughts, or as like not as important. And I mean, like we could go into that and talk about that all day long, but like
we could.
But the restaurant industry, I think, as a whole, kind of stood up and was like, wait a second, like we're taking care of you, we're putting our heart and souls out here only for you guys to tell us, like bark orders at us and feel entitled, and it's like you're coming into our space to be taken care of, and at the end of the day, if I don't feel like you're respecting my space, why have you? And that was just like, I'm not going to sit here and make cocktails for people who don't respect the fact that they're being served and they're in an environment where they should be happy to be in the presence of people who are wanting to take care of them.
Preach!
Right?
Preach!
And so I was just like, I don't want to work for where I don't have the agency to not be able to have to cater to those people.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when you work in those establishments where the money's coming in good, it just comes with it.
Yep.
Anywhere really that you work, those people just find their way. I mean, even in Elemental, I get them, but it's very few and far between, and I don't have to sit there and wait on them for hours.
It's different.
They're in and out in 5 minutes.
Yeah. I will say though, I'm just now entering back all that talk, and I'm just now entering back a couple of shifts where I can behind a bar in a restaurant, and I don't know if it's just the restaurant that I'm at right now. It seems very different. Like, I don't know what happened. I don't know if people had a reality check. Like, you better recognize and appreciate what you got, because it can be gone, and I don't have to be here. I can go do my own thing. Whatever happened.
Yeah, I think
come to
people
Jesus moment people
really
had.
Realize,
thank you.
Yeah, that people partake in the restaurant industry because generally it's in something that they enjoy doing. But if you don't make it something that people enjoy doing, they will do something else. Like, we have people who are teachers, are like have PhDs, masters, and are well educated and choose to do this either because it works better with their schedule. The money is more, which is uncertain, but it's steadier for them.
It is. There's so many advantages working in the industry. Like
you should be down on your knees thanking us for doing this, and instead you're like, where's my tomato?
Exactly. This isn't strong enough.
Yeah, my martinis. Just saw like this viral video that just went of this girl like holding a martini glass, and she's got two, and she's like, look what they're doing to you in bars. And she dumps her one martini into her second martini glass, and it fills up to the top. And she's just like, don't let these bars rip you off. And I'm just like, this video had like millions of views, and it just makes me so upset for the people who are gonna go and harass bartenders from this point on about their martini glasses being shot. First of all, you were talking about a 1990 Applebee's looking martini ship.
The huge one.
Yes.
Okay, no.
Which, like, no, you don't fill those to the top. And if you've had a restaurant or a bar that's done that before, let me tell you, they were free pouring. Yeah. And you weren't getting the cocktail that you're supposed to get, which is fine. Like, go to those dive bars and get those 5-ounce martinis. I would too. Yeah. But like, don't come for a cocktail bar who's jigger pouring everything.
There's a science whole to
thing
that.
is all about cocktail balance and not just shaking vodka until you don't hear the
Let's
ice
talk
anymore.
about it again. Conscious drinking.
Yes.
You know, like
this is an experience.
Yes, that's what it's about. And if you're not with it, like, go to a dive bar. Like, drink at home.
Right, but don't order a cocktail at a dive bar though. Yeah. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, no, don't do that.
Mixed drinks only.
That's good. That was really good. And then also, you're at Elemental Spirits, but you're also at a Sip of Paradise. So let's talk about your role there too.
All right, so I left the bar and I decided I wasn't doing that anymore, and that's when Kiata, she'd always been talking about this when she was doing Most Imaginative Bartender. I had like come to Bonton because she was like trying her drinks out, and I was like giving her feedback. And so the whole point of the competition, Most Imaginative Bartender, is not only do you make a delicious gin drink with Bombay Sapphire, but you also have to design this like entire idea behind who you are as a bartender. Like, what if your brand could be anything, what would it be? And so that was her thing. It was like she worked with a community garden near where she lives on the west side and was so into that and was like another one of those people in the industry who's like, we don't get anything. No one shows us any love. And she was like, I want something that's for us. That's like a place where we can come and do something that's thoughtful and educational, but not always centered around drinking. These are just talking about this bartender's ball, you know, like so many opportunities for us to get together. They're all centered around going out or tasting, and then the bars come. And so it was nice to, you know, everybody was getting their mental health in order because we had a breath of fresh air. I mean, you know, at the expense of many people losing their lives. And it's tragic, but people got a chance to really focus on what's important. And a lot of people realized that, like, well, a lot of people had the opportunity to believe in themselves because they were getting some money without having time to think for a second. So they got to, and then while they were getting the, you know, compensated and had the free time, they were working on their other strengths. So a lot of people realized other artistic avenues that like called to them and were able to like make that work for them. And I think that's really amazing because there's nothing worse. And I know this because I was this person sometimes behind the bar. There's nothing worse than a bartender who hates their job.
There's so many.
And it's understandable.
I used to like cry
because
going to work.
There were days that I was just like,
wouldn't catch me crying there.
Nice to you. Yeah, I can't.
I'm not gonna cry there. I'm not gonna be one of those. But I was literally like
the whole time. You have to completely come out of your element. You have to put on this show. You're like acting for acting. Absolutely.
It's a performance. It's so. People don't get that. It's
exhausting just doing that. And then on top of that, I'm running around and making drinks and clearing plates and dropping checks and kissing butt.
And I have to because it's tip-based.
Yeah.
That $2.13, I'm not going to see that. Right. Like, I got to do this because
no one sees
that tip, I'm heavily depending on it.
Yeah.
That's the part. I mean, don't get me wrong. We make money.
Sure.
We make money. But it does
shouldn't
something
be up
to
to
you.
them. Yeah.
It does something
the problem,
to you for sure.
too, is that anybody can put a restaurant together, right? Because you don't really need to pay people to run it for you. And so you get a lot of unseemly people running restaurants or people who just have no idea what they're doing, telling other people what to do just because they had the capital to open a space, but not a capital to actually pay anybody to do anything. And so all that money goes to the back of the house, and really that doesn't even go, they get paid chump change too, and they're there so like 10, 12, 14 hours sometimes doing this. And, you know, I mean, so from their perspective, they see us out here, you know, on Easy Street, like pouring iced teas or whatever, and like coming back and forth between the kitchen and outside bitching, but taking home considerably more money. And they're just sweating over a stove. And granted, they don't have to talk to strangers most of the time. It's not any less daunting or emotionally like draining.
We're right there, neck and neck. It's just it's a taxing. Which is why I've been working on the book, and that's why the book is taking so long because I'm having to relive the ugliest moments of my adult life.
There really needs to be a resurgence of what it means to have etiquette in a dining establishment.
I wish it could be a course that that's mandatory in college. In college, if you're going to college, it's just part of your college curriculum.
You would never go and you know, we've worked weddings, so we all know people go to parties and think that it's theirs, even though it has nothing to do with them. So, but to come into a place and just think that because you're throwing money down on the counter, that place is yours now.
It's the entitlement. It's that.
It's just a huge lack of respect in an industry that was once like highly regarded because the service that you provide really is helpful for people, whether you're like their shoulder to cry on for like came in and had like a terrible day and they want to talk to somebody about it but not really get any feedback, or you know, like people unload on us or people celebrate with us, and
they mourn. You know, their happiest
just, like,
moments,
taking
their
some
saddest
time
moments.
in between Atlanta traffic in rush hour, and they just need a break. But it's just like I just don't know where mentality comes in that you come into someone else's place and treat them it's one thing if like you're being disrespected left, right, and sideways. And I know that can happen too, but not to the extent that people are, you know, it's not like because they didn't give you the table that you wanted that you think that now you can just go off on a tantrum.
Yeah.
Like, you know, getting kicked out for wearing shoes when you see 3 people at the bar wearing sneakers. Now that we can talk about, that's fucked up. But like, yeah, causing a scene because, you know, your water has the wrong kind of ice in it, I can't.
Yeah. We can go on and on about that.
I'm sure everybody does.
Right? We can. Like, that's a whole
Every
episode.
bartender's like, hell, please
that's
be nice.
Episode on its own.
Be nice to your bartenders.
Just be nice to your bartenders. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to learn a little bit more about what it is, the experience of walking into a bottle shop, what to expect, maybe some best practices, some things to note, just after this short break. Welcome back. Okay, as I was preparing for this episode, I was thinking about the difference between a bottle shop and a liquor store. And I summed up this idea that bottle shops are for conscious drinkers. I've always thought that I was a conscious drinker, but being completely honest, I don't typically shop in a bottle shop, or have an innateness to, I feel really bad saying this, Stephanie, but an innateness to want to know anything more than the quality of the flavor profile of what I'm drinking.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure it's a good quality.
Sure.
And I'm a bartender, so I should care more. I feel like I should. I think there are some stigmas around bottle shops, which is why so many opt for a liquor store.
Sure.
I also think that some of the things play into our there's so many other things that play into our decisions, and I want to address them. So here's a list. One, I feel intimidated. Second, I assume the prices are going to be higher than regular liquor stores. I do think it requires us to slow down. Bottle shops are more like record stores. Like, why are you rushing? Slow down, take a minute. Yeah. I think location plays a role. Not all neighborhoods have one conveniently located, like Elemental Spirits. I think if that was in my neighborhood, I would definitely pop one over there. But I think the ones I live in Dallas. Let me not say that too much, but Georgia, not Texas. But anywho, it's not one around me. I think sometimes people don't want to engage. They just want to go in. They know what they want. They want to pop in and pop out. But I want to talk about these misconceptions. And what do you think are some of the biggest differences between a liquor store and a bottle shop? Based on some of what I said, if you have anything to talk about that or just anything else.
Okay. And I definitely see how it can be intimidating, right? Like you feel like you're on display and there's people just looking at you just like while you're shopping. I can see how it can be a lot. Not to mention you walk into the store and you're immediately probably thinking, God, everything in here is going to be like $1 million.
I really thought that.
And I mean, honestly, and unfortunately, some of them are like that, like focusing on higher wine and premium spirits and things like that. And I mean, as an avenue for people who are looking for that kind of thing, that's great. One thing that Elemental Spirits, I think, would want to stress more than anything is that it is for everybody's budget. Like we have wines under 20, we have spirits under 30. And I mean, you know, we even carry, you know, $11 229 vodka. So, yes, there can be a focus on maybe some premium spirits, but it's not the entire focus. Okay. You can definitely go in there and spend a pretty penny, sure, but you could also go in on a budget and totally be fine. The problem, I think, is that you have to be willing to ask for help. Like
people are coming on their phones like, I'm fine, like
Google.
No, I'm on my phone, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah, you have to, because otherwise you might be standing there for a while. You know, we don't organize by varietals, we organize by regions. So Cabernets are gonna be here, 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 here. You know, Pinots are gonna be here, 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 here.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about. This is what people need to know.
Right.
I didn't even know that.
And we don't have like the, you know, and you go to most big box stores and they have the aisle dividers telling you what's in everything, and we don't have that. You have to want to talk maybe even just a little bit and have to be willing to be open to asking questions if you need help. Otherwise, you are going to sit on there on your phone and we're just going to look at you and be like, just Just
ask.
Tell me what you want. That's why we're here. All of us came from restaurants. We're begging to talk to you and like share our nerdiness, you know, and just help you understand, like, because we don't want people running out and being intimidated. We want everybody drinking what we're drinking. So we want to educate. We want to get you excited about it. So I understand the people who are like, I'm just gonna, like, I don't want to be interacted with, and that's totally fine. We're gonna ask you, and if you don't want help, you don't want it, and that's like totally okay. You get in, like, do you want to talk? Or would you like a silent? Would you like a silent appointment? And it's like, that's totally fine. But the beauty of having the bottle shop experience is that if you do have questions, you know that, like, where we are at Elemental, everyone on our staff knows at least a little. We all have our weaknesses. Beer is mine. Don't ask me about beer. I don't know. I don't know. I don't drink it. It doesn't agree with my body, so I don't tend to focus on it.
It has a lot of calories.
Yeah, it fills me up too quickly. There's too much. That's not my thing. So, you know, and I don't claim to. I'll be open about not. No, I'm not gonna. It's not a restaurant where, like, I have to sell you something. That's good. You know, my salary doesn't depend on whether or not you end up buying this, even though I don't think you're gonna like it. But I'm trying to up the ticket, right? So I don't care if you come in and hate everything and leave. It doesn't bother me any more than if you come because someone else is gonna come in and be like, this is cool, and buy a bunch of stuff. But I never, the whole point of us having that is because, like, the whole point of Elemental Spirits was to have a place where you could put things on the shelf that you believed in, but also, like, be able to talk to them and get other people psyched about them as well. I definitely, especially in 2023 now, where everybody's got craft distilleries everywhere. You know, like, this isn't where there's like 3 gin options anymore. There's millions of everything out there now. There's options all over the place from all over the country. People are finally learning that bourbon isn't just from Kentucky. And so
it took us a long time.
Yeah, we're
it's like
getting
it was like
close.
Canadian, Irish, and Kentucky.
Yeah,
like,
where's
Ireland? That was it.
It's all whiskey. What? Yeah. So I mean, it's also, I think it's intimidating sometimes because you won't go in there and see all of the brands that you know,
that you recognize.
Yeah, there's not going to be that. And the whole point about this. And I mean, if you want those, you know, go to those big box stores. There's nothing wrong with liking what you like.
So do you guys carry any of the brands that people, like, know, like, are most?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some recognizable tequilas and rums, and I mean, bourbons and everything. But like, you know, you're not going to go in there and see every single brand.
Gotcha.
You know? You're not going to go to the vodka wall and see Tito's, Belvedere, like,
I'm trying to find Ciroc,
Chopin, Ciroc, all of those. And like, I might not have, there's nothing wrong with that because that's what the people are drinking and they ask.
Yeah.
And so you either are cool with trying something that's adjacent. Like we have, for instance, if you're a Ciroc person, we have some vodkas that are distilled from fruit. And we can get you there, but you know, like, some people are repping it for a different reason, and that's totally fine. You're not gonna find it here. And to be quite honest, Diddy doesn't have the best deal with Ciroc anyway. He doesn't get a ton of money from it. So,
I don't know the details of that, but interesting to know.
Oh yeah,
Interesting. Well, while we're on the bottle shop, I do want to talk about, like, the best practices to consider when purchasing at a retailer. But before we move on to that, I did want to talk about what we're drinking because it's amazing. And I'm not traditionally a sparkling wine person, but this is good.
So I brought, well, you know, from the shop, just to kind of show some of, like, what you'll find there. This is probably on the line of one of the most natural things that we have. But as you can tell, it's, like, not that funky. It's not weird.
It's not.
So Mein Klong, and they do have some funky bunches in their family for sure. Foam Vulcan is what we're drinking. And this is a blend of 2 grapes, Harslevalu and Jaffark.
Say that again? What did you just say?
Harslevalu and Jaffark are the great. I'm probably butchering the hell out of the pronunciations, and I'm sorry, Austrian Hungarian people, for doing that to you. But yeah, 2 grapes you've probably never heard of. And Austria has is making a ton of really beautiful wine. Just like since working at Elemental is one of the regions that I never would have thought twice about going into someplace like Tower or, I mean, not to talk shit on Tower. Y'all are my number one account at Angels Envy. Thank you so much. But, you know, like you go there looking for things that you're looking for. And then like something like this, you might see and like the label might intrigue you, but you're not going to know anything about it.
Nothing.
Whereas you could come up to any one of us at Elemental, and yes, you were talking about sticker prices. You might be paying $1 or $2 more, but every single person. This is $28 a bottle.
I would buy it. This is good.
It retails anywhere from like $25 to $28, $30.
Guys, I'm not lying. But, this is good. And I am not a white wine drinker, like sparkly. I like Prosecco and that's it.
You have like some pear and like flower notes. You get like a tiny bit of like a sour beer, almost kombucha-esque kind of quality.
And it's dry too. And I'm not used to, I guess too, I've strayed away from white wines because they make my jaws itch. Like
that's the acidity that's getting
I can't. And then it's like it locks them up and I can't talk. Like
wow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's
this is not doing that.
Okay.
So this is nice.
Okay.
So it's been a while since I've tasted something crisp, nice, refreshing,
2 grapes
light.
that we'll never remember.
I'm just gonna remember.
But they made this winery in Mein Klong. The winery is made with the intent that if for some reason humans were wiped away from it tomorrow, and there were no humans on this winery in this vineyard, that this place would be able to sustain itself without humans.
Okay.
So on the labels, usually you'll see a little cutout of a cow. That's because like everything plays a role in this winery. It's a farm, it's a like greenhouse, like the herbs and the flowers that they plant in the vineyards are intentional. It's companion planting, which we learn in A Sip of Paradise Garden.
What's companion planting?
Like when you plant certain things together because they thrive together.
Okay,
friends with friends. And they grow together.
I like that.
It's very cute.
In theory, I like that just in more than just the plant world. Of
right,
like just
but it also helps attract
and relationships.
Instead of having sprays or like, any kind of chemical interference, they create they plant things where like the bugs that thrive off these certain plants eat the bugs that put the grapes in danger. Like everything is intention. Everything plays a part in the. So that's like at the core, what natural wine is. It's just like wine that basically makes itself with like the very littlest human intervention possible.
Gotcha.
So basically they like throw this wine in a tank, let it ferment, make itself, and then we off camera did this. It's the soda top bottle. So they allowed the fermentation to happen inside the bottle. And so the difference is in that last step, you're not filtering it, you're not adding anything to make sure that final product is ready. They're just like, nature's got this.
That's nice.
So that's like the big thing about our wine program that kind of sets us apart from bottle shops is you're not going to find you will find some labels that you recognize, but a lot of them are smaller producers and just like more intentional growers, people who are really planting and growing with a purpose.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. I do want to move on and talk about what I said earlier, best practices to consider when purchasing alcohol at a retailer. So I would love to use this opportunity for you to educate folks. I feel like going into a liquor store is like going into the gym for some people. You know how you go in and you want to be confident in using the machines, but you really don't know how to use them.
Looks at you weird and you're like, let me get out of here.
You just don't want to look like you don't know how. Sure. We have so much pride, so it's like, let me go in and get what I know works. I ain't got time to look like I don't know what I'm doing here. So like get in, get out.
First of all, none of us expect you to be experts in what you're doing. This is our job. Like we're supposed to be the experts in what you're drinking.
I want to know, what are some common rules at a liquor store or bottle shop that you constantly have to remind patrons of?
I would say in Georgia, you have to have it concealed in a bag. All of your things have to be packaged. So, you know, as much as I would love to be environmentally conscious and just let you walk out of there with that bottle in your hand, I can't do it. So let me put it in a bag for you. I'm not trying to kill the environment, I promise.
Yeah.
Georgia is. You take that up with them. I don't have any say in that.
Okay.
But the other thing I think would just be, if you don't see what you recognize, if you are dead set on that label, on that brand of whatever you love, fine. Go find it. Ask where you can find it. If it's not time sensitive, we'll be happy to order it. One of the biggest, I think, two of the biggest name brands that we ask for the most, I think, are probably Tito's and Casamigos.
Really?
Yeah.
Welcome to Atlanta,
Yeah,
Casamigos.
So, no, we don't carry Tito's, and we never will. And the reason for that is because I think a lot of people, what they don't consider in these bigger bottle shops is they have massive amounts of storage. They're able to buy tons of product to get it at a rate that is pleasing for you. So when these bottle shop or these bigger box stores order these bottles, you know, they're ordering 20 cases at a time. They're getting them at a certain price where they're able to give it to you at a price that you want. Whereas we don't have that stock. We don't have that space in the back to be able to hold all of those things.
So if you were to price it at what
we would have to pay for it,
we'd be like, oh, no.
They would see Tito's on the shelf, but they would be mad at us for having it on the shelf for what we have it on. And it's just like, so for the brands that we do carry, we carry them because they still come in at a price that's appealing for everyone.
Okay.
Yeah, so we do have 100% corn vodka. Like I promise you, I mean, even though all spirits are gluten-free, it's science. We do have the corn, like 100% corn. We have things that are not distilled from grain if that's a problem for you. Because it's not always gluten that makes you, I understand. It's not just a gluten allergy. Sometimes it's something different.
Yeah.
But yes, we do have things that aren't distilled from grain.
Okay.
And then for the Casamigos, that falls into our ethos thing, right? Like where I was a big fan of.
I'm sorry, the word Casamigos is just funny to
I
me.
know.
There's just so many things.
House of Friends. We called it Clooney in my Pittsburgh days.
Why?
Because it was George Clooney's tequila.
Oh,
Clooney.
I guess I didn't know that.
Yeah. It started.
Thanks for the education. I really
it started
didn't know
because
that.
he was going over, I think it was like Tijuana. He was like
Okay.
going to Tijuana. There was like a mezcalero there that made tequila that he just absolutely loved. And he was bringing it back to share with like his people.
Okay.
But like every time he would bring so much back, they were taxing him because that's how it works. And he didn't like that. And so he decided to bypass the taxing because he kept, like, he was a big fan. He created Casamigos as like a label to bring this tequila in. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
However, when he sold to Diageo for that paycheck, which, like, you know, can't be mad. I mean, you were already rich already, but whatever, he sold it. It became mass produced. Like you're talking about a small time farmer who was making these bottles to now, like, this is a mainstream, main name, house called thing.
It's in a lot of rap music.
Yeah.
It's in a lot of music.
Well, I mean, you know, there's
social
something to be
media.
said about that as well. I mean, like, the music industry really helps market some brands for sure. And you can see, yeah, you can see that.
I'm not mad at that though. I'm like, get the
no,
money.
it's very cool, and they should get paid for that.
Yeah, that's cool.
I took, like, in New York one time, I took a class on, like, particularly the hip hop influence in marketing for certain brands.
Okay.
And I mean, yeah.
It's the product placement
Hennessy,
for me.
Moet, they really owe the hip hop community.
Yeah, and not even just the liquor,
Patron.
alcohol. It's like product placement in general.
Yeah.
Sometimes you see music
gosh.
videos. If you ever take a second, just watch it.
And then
when I come across a music video, I just stop and watch it.
Right. And
it's just like, it's so random too. It's like, how did this
But also too, you have to think about, like, that's young
Yeah.
people too. People who are, like, maybe just turning 21 and they know these names from the songs that they listen to.
Yeah.
So they feel confident in ordering these things because
Right.
they know how to say it and they know what it is because they heard whomever sing about it.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's totally cool.
Yeah.
It's just like, you know, again, we have to play that game where, like, we're setting things at a price that makes sense because we can bring in all of these name brand things that you want, but not at the price that makes them why you want them.
Right.
And
it's
so,
a balance.
Yeah. And so that way, but I think it's something that's kind of cool because now you're exposed to something, now you have the opportunity to be like, I like this, what's like that? And that's where we come in. That's why you pay maybe $1 or $2 more on the sticker price is because someone is gonna be able to come and navigate with you and help you if you're open to it.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not going to a Casamigos themed party or something, if you're open to it, I'm gonna get you there.
Yeah.
And get you something like, you know, maybe even at a lower price point that tastes even better.
Exactly, because there's so many other options.
Yeah.
Anywho, this is a random question, but how often do people show up drunk to a bottle shop? Like your store specifically, like, or is that not that often?
Well, I think anytime you work in a industry where you have, where it's, you know, abuse can happen, overindulgence can happen.
Yeah.
You know, we definitely have people who are regulars who, you know, are using dependently. And it's hard to see, you know, you can't really do anything, but like what, you know, this world's not helping them. What am I gonna do? So everybody has their vices.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that was a whole...
Your regulars.
Yeah, there are some.
Do you guys do small bottles? Everything's like...
No,
cool. Okay.
Yeah, that was a thing from the neighborhood. They didn't want us to do that.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was another thing behind us being cashless as well. Because we're owned by a man and woman, but mostly women are in this store working and in the store closing. And we know with like, even restaurants are having problems with getting robbed.
Right.
And so anything for us where it's like, we can take steps to be safer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not ideal. We can talk about, you know, how it's kind of ridiculous to not accept cash. However, my safety's on the line.
Yeah,
so.
no, I'm not mad at that.
But yeah, so yes, you do. And then there is like, you know, Manny's is right next door. We have the fishmonger that they're BYOB. So
I haven't
a lot of
been
people,
there yet, but I've heard great things.
It's delicious.
Everyone talks
They're very
about
tiny,
it.
so they didn't put up like at least at the Highland location there at Pullman Yards, and they have a whole great cocktail program. If you are missing 8-arm and all of that talent, it's at Pullman Yards. But the fishmonger right down the street, they're way too small for a liquor license, so they do BYOB, so they send people our way a lot. And so we'll have people that come in and like buy wine and then like run back and we're like, we're having such a good time. And not that they think they're wasted, but like, yeah. But yeah, so not really. But there's a couple.
You guys are different.
Once in a while.
Okay.
I get more kids that act like drunk people than actual drunk people. And that's how, you know, we're in a family neighborhood. That's, yeah.
Okay. Last question on this subject. What are some of the craziest questions or requests you received from guests?
I don't know if it's crazy, but we get a lot of those like taters, the bourbon hunters. And so, I'm
like, what?
Give me a face. This is a whole episode for you.
Really? Please.
I'm the bourbon people. Yeah, so, you know, bourbon has like a very big cult following, especially with like the Buffalo Trace family.
Okay.
They do that whole antique release. So basically people will come in asking for bourbons that no one carries ever. Or if they do, you know, they get like one. And so we have, you know, just a lot of people thinking because we're like a small niche, like
that
shop that carries like good spirits that we might have them, but it actually works against us because we don't pull in that inventory. For instance, like Buffalo Trace, correlates a lot of who gets their allocated product to who buys a lot of their like vodka that they have now and other things. Wheatley. It's a wheat vodka.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
okay.
But people who drink bourbon know it because a lot of times with those special releases, you have to buy one to get it. And so like there's this, it's a very weird game. So I think with it, people assume that because we're like a niche kind of market bottle shop, that we would have all of the higher end, highly sought after spirits, and that's just not. If anything, we get less of those.
Where do you send those people to?
I mean,
I'm always curious.
To Jesus.
I had this client once, and they had their party, and after the party, the wife was like, "I want to show you my husband's." His bourbon collection.
Pappy's and Blanton's for days.
He had a private room that had special air cameras and a special lock.
Oh, wow.
She couldn't get in, just like, babe, let me in. We get in, and it was like this elaborate, like special lighting, special shelves. A lot of money went into this closet of just, well, it wasn't a closet. It was a small, tight space, but it was nice. And I was just bourbon alone.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. This is
become
nice.
a very, it's cool to see collections like that. I don't really understand the point in collecting a bunch of whiskey that you're not going to drink.
Clearly,
what happens when that guy gets hit by a bus tomorrow and all those unopened bottles go somewhere else?
They'll hire Spirit and Soul to serve it.
I drink it. And it's
I think they drink it with time, just no urgency on it.
Oh, listen, my husband, we have our own little private cabinet of things that he won't, like there's a bottle of, we have a bottle of George T. Stagg that he won't let me open. And I'm like,
is he waiting for a special occasion?
I don't know. We're gonna open it one of these days.
Okay.
I mean, unless someone wants to give me $2,000 for it, then we could talk and DM me later. But
you heard her, people. You heard her.
Not that I am heavy into the secondary marketing. That's a shitty thing to do to people too. But I don't get the sitting and looking at it thing. It's whiskey.
Yeah. Drink it. I'm down for letting it linger, letting it sit there for some time, maybe sipping it on special occasions.
Yeah, and then obviously there are wines that benefit from that, truly. Yeah. But spirits, I understand wanting to have a showcase of things that you're proud of. That's what it is really at the end of the day, is a flex for him, right? To be able to open that door and be like, look at all of these things that everybody wants that I have. And I get it. It's like that's a thing for people. But as a person who grew up drinking,
I just want to drink it.
Yeah, and you can't tell it. And I don't think industry people get it. We're like, no, we're gonna open that. We're probably gonna take shots of it, and then maybe we're gonna put Coke in it because who gives a shit?
It's just alcohol.
So everything to do when people are like, ooh, Blanton's. I'm like, oh my God, Blanton's and Coke is my favorite drink. And it's not, but it's like people get so upset because like, you put Coke in Blanton's? I'm like, none of you even cared about Blanton's 5 years ago. This shit sat on my back bar forever.
That's the one with the little horse on the top? Yeah. Okay, we're gonna go to our next segment, which is called Ear to the Street, so it's really fun. So I think this is really cool because you're in a bottle shop. So are there any newer brands coming out that you're excited about, or just spirits that you want to be like, oh, definitely to try this, add this to the collection?
Okay.
We've already talked about this one that I can't pronounce.
Mind Clong?
Mind Clong.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We love that.
We do.
If you like the funky, weird stuff, get into it. This isn't too funky, weird, the Foam Vulcan, but if you want some of their stuff can get real natty. So if you're trying to get into the natty wines and you want to see what they're like, this is a great brand to dive into.
Think of maybe even local, you say you don't like beer, so I won't focus on breweries, but maybe any local distilleries or wineries that people should be aware of.
The Merle's Road that just came out, that gin is really cool. Like I said, it's like a project from the Kimball House people, so that is really tight. That's coming out of Georgia right now, specifically to local. Mi Gente, what we all did like a little project at the end of the year where all of the staff gave their favorite picks of 2022.
Okay.
And this was my favorite thing that came into the market this year. It is agave. Yes, this is a whiskey girl.
Now question, when you say an agave, for me, not even for them, educate me. When you say agave, are you talking about tequila or are you talking about some, like when you say that?
Yes, agave is like the umbrella that tequila and mezcal live under. And then tequila has to be blue weber agave to be tequila. It has to be 100% blue weber agave. It's the only agave you're allowed to use. Whereas mezcal, there's way less rules to follow. There's tons of different agaves used. You can smoke it, you cannot smoke it. It can come from anywhere. Tequila has to be in like 5 specific states to be made.
Okay.
So yeah, it's like the champagne of sparkling wine, tequila. There's a lot more rules for tequila.
Got it, okay. Any other?
So yeah, Mi Gente is made by a woman who is the only licensed tequilera in Mexico. So it was illegal for women to distill for a very long time. And she is the only woman who is not only licensed to distill, but she is licensed to blend.
Nice.
And her whole ethos behind her project is to have a almost carbon negative product. So she's going for her B Corp certification, which is like, as a business, means that you're ethical inside out, sideways, upside down, every single way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What's the brand called again?
Mi Gente.
Okay.
Yeah. And really just clean, beautiful, drinking tequila. Her everything with her brand is intentional.
So you guys sell this at?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we have the...
I'm coming by and get it. I love agaves.
Yeah, no, it's a really delicious tequila. It's like complex. It's like retails, I think we were retailing it for around $40, and it's like beautifully floral. It's just really, really, really nice. One of my favorite things that we have on our shelf. Other things to try. We have some really cool liqueurs and amaros.
Okay.
We have a really heavy amari section, so if you're into that, there's definitely Fourth Have out of Brooklyn is definitely a cool brand to look for. They have a lot of really yummy things coming out, and we carry a few of their SKUs. Any of our staff picks, like our...
Where do you find those?
So those are on the shelf that separate the lower part of the store from the upper part of the store, and it's all lined with, it's mostly whiskey. We have some rye and some bourbons, some American whiskeys, and some single malts. But we also have rum and a mezcal pick right now too. So those are exclusive to our store.
Okay.
You know, their rep, whomever came in, brought us specific barrel samples. We tasted them. We were like, this is great. We want to put our name on that. And so that you can't find them anywhere else, and we consider them to be some really yummy things coming out of these specific places.
Nice. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely coming by for that tequila.
It's so good.
I'm a tequila girl all day. Last final thing. This is a speed round, so it's really quick, really fun. Gonna be like 5 minutes. Okay. Whatever comes to mind first. What song is on repeat right now for you? Specifically, a song that you play when you're liking to have a cocktail, when it's a cocktail moment. It's like, I'm having a cocktail, feels great. What song is that for you?
Right now. Ooh. Okay.
Or vibe or artist.
Quick.
I'm trying to expand it because that might be hard.
If I'm like feeling mellow, maybe something like Brittany Howard or like
I love her.
Yeah. She's my just vibe and queen. I'm obsessed. Yeah. But then like if I'm like really like I'm wanting to like dance around and some stuff, maybe like I don't know. God, it's everywhere. Anyone from like Dolly Parton to like Cardi B to like...
I would have never expected Dolly Parton though. I would have never expected that.
Like, it really just depends. I'm all over the place. I really like, I think gravitate towards women artists in general.
Yeah, same.
And so I have like it's called Girl Time, and it's just a bunch of female artists.
Wait,
that's my playlist. Yeah.
Can I want to Seriously. Dope. So there is a controversy on this podcast on the topic of Long Island. So I wanted to know what your opinion is on a Long Island. When was the last time you made one or had one? And what's your opinion on it?
Oh man, even at the high-end bar that I used to work at, people would still ask for Long Island iced teas. I think people order it because they think it's a drink that's gonna get them fucked up. Okay. And not because it tastes good. Okay. I also, if you're making it correctly, it's not any more alcohol than anything else. And I think the fact that it tastes so abrasive makes people think that they're getting fucked up. Yeah. And maybe mentally that works for you, and if it does, that's cool. But when I would make them at the high-end bar, I would apply like cocktail technique, because like I'm making a Long Island iced tea. I'm gonna shake it and then top it with Coke. And every single person was like, it's too weak. It doesn't taste like.
Really?
Oh yeah. I had them said, oh yeah, I had to free pour and like pour the last one on top so that they could instantly taste alcohol. I don't think it's a good drink, but I'm never going to tell anybody what to drink. Yeah. I am going to assume if you're ordering it that you're ordering it because you think it's going to fuck you up quick.
Yeah, that's the consensus. What's your favorite wings in the city?
Oh shit. Actually, I mean the local slaps. Okay. If you want the smoked wings, but Flatiron in East Atlanta Village. Yeah, they've got really good lemon pepper wings.
Interesting.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Are their wings big or small? Because I don't like big wings.
They're small. I also don't like big wings.
Okay. I might have to check them out.
I'm really particular.
I might have to check them out. What's your biggest pet peeve when working? So this question, I guess, could be just while at the bottle shop, or if you want to answer it while you're behind the bar, but that's been a while.
Energy thieves, energy vampires, people who you know are just like pulling shit out of you to see how smart you may or may not be without any intention of doing anything about it. For instance, the other day I had someone that well, this wasn't my story. I'm going to steal it because it's coming to my head most recently. Okay. But my friend had someone come to our bottle shop and ask for banana beer. Okay. And then like we had, but it's not like something that there's like 70 varieties of. Okay. Yeah. So we actually had a banana beer. Okay. It was like, I don't know, some like take on a breakfast something. This is another thing with beers. It's like there's too much going on sometimes. There is. There was like maple syrup and bananas and mangoes and oranges and things like that. And pineapples. So yeah, and when she explained it to him, he was like, well, I don't like fruity beer. And my first thought, like, and this is why I'm glad I wasn't waiting on him, because I probably would have retorted with, what do you think a banana is? That's a fruit, right? Okay, so I don't know what banana beer wouldn't taste like a fruit. Right. But then like went on to ask all of these questions about another spirit. And then when she was done like talking and describing everything, it was just like, well, I don't even like this. And it's just like, waste of time. What are you doing? Get out of here, you have people that do that at the bar when I'm like 5 deep and they're like, why is this good? What's this? What's in this? What's in this? What's in this? And I understand having questions, but be intentional with those. Yeah. Yeah. When you know that your bartender or your person is like not just there for you. Read the room. Yeah. Read the room. Just read the room. Read the room. And if it's nice if you have genuine knowledge, but don't, if you have no intention behind what you're asking, don't ask it. Yeah. Go to Google. We can look up anything nowadays. I don't have to tell you. Exactly. Okay, and this is the last question. Oh, maybe it's the second to last. What establishment do you feel is extremely underrated? Ooh. That's a really good question. I wish that. Or bar. I feel like, unfortunately, like I'm not out in like the bar scene so much anymore. So I feel like if I were to give an opinion, it would be dated now anyway. Okay. Bottle shops are completely underrated. Yeah. Yeah. Go to your bottle shop. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Don't come looking for Blanton's, but don't be scared. Don't be shy. Or Casamigos. No. Or Tito's. Yeah. No shade, because I do love Tito's. We love the thirsty and curious. We make a whole hashtag about it. Yeah, Tito's is great. Yeah. I mean, it's fine. Last question. This is for real. What's your cocktail of the season or your spirit of the season? What is that right now? Like, what are you migrating towards right now mostly? Well, since working in whiskey, I lived and breathed and became very knowledgeable, but also just swallowed and smothered by it. So now, I mean, I like it, but we're not friends at the moment. Really? I mean, I will drink it, but it's like not something that I'm getting excited about anymore. Okay. When we get like a new SKU of whiskey or a new brand of whiskey, I'm like, well, who sourced it? Like, are they making it? Get me to the point. Yeah, what's special about, why am I drinking this? Okay. Because a lot of, like right now, you're getting a lot of bourbons with high sticker tags with no story. Yeah. Yeah, and so story matters. Well, story matters if it's a story worth telling. And if it's real, don't make up a story. Yes. Yeah, right. For the sake of, or saying it's rare for the sake of saying. Yeah. So agave, right? Not like tequila. Is really Blanco too. Anything unaged. I don't want barrel aging in my life right now. You want Blanco. Yeah, I like it raw and funky, and I want to taste where it's coming from. Yeah. And I feel like that's the best way to get to do that. Hey. I like that. Yeah. You get a sense of like terroir in these things, which is very cool. It's something that's usually only correlated to. Terroir is. So terroir is. You always say terms I don't know, but I'm happy to say them. It's a wine term. It means like a sense of place. Okay. So like for instance, a French Pinot Noir is going to taste different than a California Pinot Noir because they're grown in different places. Different things are growing with them. Different climates. All of these factors make it like same grape, but like different things are coming forward because of how it's being interacted with. Okay. Same thing with like tequila, where the barrel aging is going to kind of like soften a lot of those notes, and you're introducing vanilla notes at that point, caramels and some baking spices, and so It doesn't necessarily mask it, but sometimes, you know, you just get like that richer, sweeter vibe, and I'm just on a vegetal, like herbaceous kick right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna say that too, because that's where I'm at. I love tequila.
Yeah.
Right now, it's been my thing for a minute. So yes.
And gin, I think, would be a close second.
Gin is.
Yeah.
I
love Amaro too, but like.
I love a good gin cocktail. Yeah. Anywho, I'm so happy that you were here today.
Yeah, me too.
I've learned so much. I've learned so much about this new wine. I'm gonna definitely pick up that tequila you mentioned. I'm definitely gonna pick up. So definitely pay a visit to Elemental Spirit, guys. It's in off of North Island.
Yeah. Also, Corey, if you want to like give me like a little bonus for shamelessly plugging your store for an hour,
right? Please, by all means.
I'll give you my Venmo.
Right. Spirit and Soul would love to host anything for you. Just let us know. And on that note, again, thank you, Stephanie. I had so much fun learning about your journey, drinking with you,
Corey.
talking. This has been educational, I hope, for everyone that's out there. So that wraps it up for another episode of Spirit and Soul. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you're following us on Instagram at Spirit and Soul Podcast. We're also on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Make sure you're following us on all those things. Make sure you subscribe to all of those things. And make sure you share this content so we can continue to
educate the people.
Educate the people.
Yes.
Thank you so much, and see you next time.
Bartenderness.